Hey, welcome to another Buckeye Review News Update. It's 7 days before the election, and there's quite a bit of buzz about the activity around the election, not only locally but nationally. So I wanted to chat today with Reverend Kenneth Simon. Many people know him as the pastor of great New Bethel Baptist Church here in Youngstown, but he's also the president, or is it chairman, of the Community Mobilization Committee.
Coalition.
The Community Mobilization Coalition, which is a fairly substantial organization that covers the minority community in the Youngstown area. So welcome, Reverend Simon, and tell us about the CMC.
Thank you. Dr. McNair, appreciate you having us on the show here. Community mobilization has been in existence since, I think, 1999 and 899 was when we organized. We had 8 organizations then. We were organized for the express purpose of voter registration, voter education, and voter mobilization. And then we deal with some social issues as well, social justice issues. But our main focus is engaging the entire community, the minority community, African American and Hispanic community, in the electoral process so that we are represented, as well as making government accountable to the people that it serves.
So you say it started with 8 organizations. How many is now?
Now we're up to 19.
19 organizations?
Yes.
Okay.
Clergy organizations, that's the IMA, the Baptist Pastor Council, Action, those are clergy organizations. And then we have organizations like the NAACP, the Urban League, the A. Philip Randolph Institute, the Kappas, Alpha Fraternity, the Alpha Kappa Sorority, AKAs, OKA, the Hispanic
Divine
organization.
Nine, right?
The Divine. We're working on all of them.
Nice.
But there's 19 organizations now at Youngstown One Black Caucus, an integral part of our work, and it's been a blessing to our community in the sense that bringing our African American leadership together. We meet monthly and sometimes bi-monthly when we're getting close to election season. But being at the table, communicating with each other so we can all be on the same page as it relates to the issues that are affecting our community and our people. And then giving our people adequate information for them to make intelligent decisions as it relates to candidates and issues that are on the ballot.
So speaking of the ballot and information, I think when you said, voter information, mobilization, and education, that since we're in this window now getting ready to vote, I wanted to maybe talk about maybe some of the issues that are on the ballot right now. But before we get to that, because I do think people know or should know, or if they don't know, if they listen in, maybe now we'll tell them something now that they don't know. But to encourage people to get out and vote, because one of the biggest problems is apathy, even though right now, because of what's going on in the country, there seems to be a lot of interest in this particular election.
Yeah, there's so much at stake.
Okay.
So much at stake. Of course, on the national level, the Senate race is a critical race because we've been trying to get things passed. Getting got passed in the House, but then they're getting stuck in the Senate.
Right.
Like the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. That's been passed in the House, but it's been stalled in the Senate. And if we don't turn the Senate, we're going to be in worse shape. We're going to be back in the times where Obama couldn't get things passed because, we don't have the legislative branch power.
And so really we're talking about the midterms, and the midterms are basically not a presidential year, right? So presidents, everybody votes, a lot of people during the presidential year, and then 2 years later they call it the midterm because it's not a presidential year, but it's a very important year.
It's crazy. Every election is critical.
Everyone.
And the local elections are
always
vital because they affect you more than anything.
Exactly.
And in 2008, when Obama got elected, we were all happy. We turned out the numbers and everything, and we celebrated. And then in 2010,
The midterms.
we went to sleep.
Okay.
And then that's when everything flipped in the governorships in the states, and everything shifted in the Congress, and and that's where we're getting hurt, and
Right.
because we think that there are off elections.
But there's no such thing as an off
No
election.
such thing as off election.
So I just want to just kind of let the listeners know that typically, like in 2010, the midterms under Obama's first term, the low turnout caused some state legislatures to churn, some governorships, and the Senate to churn, and also the House of Representatives. And because of that midterm malaise, if you will, things had long-term impact. Now, in Obama's first term, they passed the Affordable Care Act.
Yeah.
A lot of people got health insurance that didn't before, and got better health insurance. Now, a lot of people didn't like it, but for people who loved it, everybody needs health insurance.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody who got health insurance is sad about it.
Right.
But the party that took over, the Republicans at the time, they hated Obamacare.
Yeah.
I think because some people had to pay more, or because some people's insurance was going to pay for something they didn't believe in, like abortion. They said, "No, we don't have." For whatever reason, they hated it, and so they voted to overturn it.
Yeah.
They in the House, but it never got passed. They voted about 50 times to overturn it, but it never, because they didn't have, they couldn't get it past the Senate. They couldn't get it over the finish line. Even when President Trump came, they still tried to overturn it, and they didn't have an alternative plan for it.
Right.
And they couldn't overturn it even when they had the majority, because they didn't have another plan. And I think the reason I'm making this point is because the midterms, under Trump, the midterms were very high. Normally not.
Right.
So I think President Trump did the country a favor, maybe, from the standpoint of getting people energized to vote.
Yeah, even if it brought about a whole lot of craziness with it.
Yeah, it was a lot of crazy. I will echo that. A lot of things that went down that were not good, but more people voted. So the last midterms was 2018.
Yeah.
There was a high turnout, and there's expected this time to be a high turnout as well.
Yeah.
President Trump is no longer president, but there's still a high turnout. What do you think is going on with that?
Yeah. This Trumpism has really energized that base, and it's changing the country, and it's going to affect us more than anything, because they're attacking. I mean, we're going backwards as it relates to the rights that we've gained through the civil rights movement, Dr. King, and all the other gains that we've made. Voter rights are under attack. Public education is under attack. So there's a lot at stake in these midterm elections. What we just witnessed in the state of Ohio with these gerrymandered maps, and this Republican-controlled House and Senate, and House of Representatives and Senate in the state of Ohio, and the Ohio Redistricting Commission.
Oh, right.
They just totally ignored the voters' wishes in 2015 for the representative districts, and then in 2018 for the congressional districts. The voters said over 70% that we want fair maps, and then here they wanted a process that ensured that it would be a fair process. So they carried out this little thing where they went to different sections of the state and had these hearings, and they came here to YSU. I attended that hearing, and I told them I wasn't going to say anything, but I was one of the last ones to. They let me get up and say something. I told them, I said, you have these hearings. because you're mandated to have them. But you're going to listen to all these what these people said, and you're going to go back behind closed
And do
doors
something completely
and
different.
do what you've been doing because you don't care. And maybe it's not that you don't care, you just care about the wrong thing.
Right.
You
right.
care about your party loyalty than what's good for the people.
I think that's an important point, because we should pause here to say that the Community Mobilization Committee is nonpartisan,
Right.
right? But it represents minorities in the inner city, which is largely Democratic, not 100%.
Right.
But we care about issues that, that affect our everyday lives.
Yeah.
So for more than 20 years, I know that the Community Mobilization Committee has a political forum, which is one of the largest in the valley, with like hundreds of people showing up, and all of the candidates showing up to say, "Vote for me."
Yeah.
So what's happened recently?
Yeah, we since 1999 we've been having these forums, and we invite Democrats, Republicans, Green Party, Independents, whoever's running. We provide a format for them to present themselves to the public, to our constituents, to our community, so that they can talk about their platform, what they propose to do in office, etc. And for years, they show up, and our community gets to hear, and then decide. We don't endorse. We don't, take one, talk about one party over the other. We're nonpartisan. And then 2022 comes, and the primaries hit, and we planned a forum for the primary, and then we sent out the invitations. Some Republicans didn't respond. Some did. They responded as far as they were coming. They sent the letters, and then I think the day before and the day of, all of them. It's like they got some marching orders from somewhere.
Right.
Don't show. You don't have to.
Right.
To go to that community, and so to the man, woman, whatever, to the person, none of them
Not
showed.
a single Republican came.
Yeah.
And that was a little bit disappointing. I know I was a panelist, and I wrote about it. Pick up your Buckeye Review at a newsstand near you, or the electronic edition. You can find it. But I remember thinking, that was it was an affront to the minority community. You know what I mean? It's just you're the chairman, right? And you said, well, it's not about me, but it's about it's 19 organizations.
Absolutely.
It's like thousands and thousands of constituents, voters.
Absolutely.
And basically they're saying, talk to the hand, we don't want to have anything
They
to do with
snubbed
you.
their nose at us. It was just a slap in the face
That's-
of the black community, and I just thought it was, again, disgraceful to our community that for them to not show, and some of them just not respond. And so I actually I wanted to I wanted to call a press conference right in front of the Republican Party headquarters because how do you just disrespect the black community? I mean, we're just asking you. We're not endorsing one or the other.
Ask you what your position
What's
is.
your position?
Ask for our
And you're
vote.
telling us we don't care.
Right.
We don't have to talk. to you.
So there's been, I guess, a brazenness about, over the last couple of years since January 6th, if you will. I guess before, since Trump came in, but I'll just say since January 6th, people look at those videos of people getting, hurt, killed, smashed, hang Mike Pence and all that. So look at those videos and they walk away and they say, it wasn't a big deal. Even J.D. Vance kind of paid for, raised money to support the legal fees of the people. So it seemed a little bit disingenuous. And so I think because of the clear dichotomy between the truth in front of your face, and now they're going to run like the guy in Pennsylvania, Mastriano, he was there. And he's running for the Secretary of State or governor. So to answer questions in the face of what's clearly an offense to the truth and to the American people, I think that makes it for a difficult public discussion unless you're in a friendly audience.
Yeah.
So I think that might be why Mastriano will show up on Fox News and so will Herschel Walker, but they won't show up. And we're talking about national and statewide, but here we're talking about local folks.
Yeah.
We're talking about this is young stuff. It's not national politics.
Yeah, and they didn't show up for our forum in the
In the
primary, and then in the general, we had a forum again. None of them showed up, and then Pastor Harrison had a forum on yesterday, and the only Republican that showed up there was I think Hannah, but all of the rest of them just kind of again, and they haven't showed up for some of the debates, or never consented to debate, and they're not showing up. They're just not showing up in urban centers.
Okay, it's not just urban centers that they're not showing up.
Yeah.
Or that where they're not just. They're saying talk to the hand for just the urban centers.
That's what it appears. It appears
Okay.
that.
Okay. Well, that's clear. I mean, at least we have to understand, right? Because I think at one point we thought, that our vote and our voice was respected. Well, we hoped that our voice and our vote was respected.
Yeah.
But the more things change, the more they say the same, if you will. Because you talk about the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, which needs to be passed, and it's been stalled because the Senate won't pass it. Well, the truth is, in 2013, they killed the Voting Rights Act from 1965, right?
Yeah.
In 2013, the Supreme Court took the teeth out of Section 2, which basically said to states, we don't have to look over your shoulder if you do something special with your elections that might have a disparate impact on a certain population.
Yeah.
And when they did that in 2013, they basically opened the floodgates. Now you can have vigilantes showing up.
Absolutely. And that's what we got. That's why I just got done with poll training, chaplain poll training, because we have to now prepare our people to face intimidation at the polling locations. It's been in the news where, they're having people come armed
Showing up with guns.
with guns and, just intimidating people and from casting their vote. And that kind of stuff, we have to now engage in a strategy to combat that or to deal with that, because we don't want our people to be intimidated and afraid to go out and vote. And so we had poll training today. This was the last one today. They've had several. And some pastors and clergy and lay leaders from our churches have volunteered to be chaplains. This is across the nation.
Right.
But it's just a whole different atmosphere now. And what we saw on January 6th is just spilling over into every aspect of community life, particularly it relates to even the elections. Everybody, they bought into the lie that the steal, and so now their troops are rallying to make sure that there's no steal, and intimidating voters, and particularly in urban centers and critical states where, like Ohio, PA, that are where the races are going to be really critical.
There are about 9 states that are being closely watched.
Absolutely.
So the turnout is going to be high. The engagement is important. Of course, we're in Ohio, but we have subscribers. The Buckeye Review has subscribers in every one of those 9 states. Actually, we have subscribers in 200 cities and 26 states. So we're in Texas, we're in Arizona, we're in Oklahoma, and Pennsylvania. When I say we who subscribe to the Buckeye Review, but also we who care about our democracy. So I did want to make a point about the administration's because people are concerned about inflation, and I don't want to talk to you necessarily about inflation. I want to talk to you about the Community Mobilization Committee
Yeah.
and some of those activities. Maybe I'll save that inflation, economic thing for the end. But there's some mobilization going on, right?
Yes.
There's like it's a bus tour coming through.
Yeah, tomorrow. Tomorrow.
Okay.
The Black Vote Matters, Black Voters Matter
Okay.
tour
Okay.
bus. They've come, it's out of Georgia, and they've been going throughout the country, and they've made some stops in Ohio earlier this month, last month rather, and then they, some of the bigger, larger cities, and then they went to PA, but we got them to come back this way to engage and to ignite the greater Youngstown community. They're making some stops at 3 o'clock, from 3 to 5 on the east side and the north side. I think Frida's or...
Yeah, I see here it's going to be at Frida's at 5. Takeout soul food at 4. Rally at New Bethel Baptist Church at 5.
At 5 o'clock.
And at the Board of Elections at 6. So
Yeah.
I see this nice bus here. I don't know if we can zoom in on this at all, but we'll post this on our site as well so people can rally with us.
Yeah.
I was in D.C. at the CBC week a couple of weeks ago, and they were, talking about the hashtag 10 million more black voters. If more black people voted, I mean, everybody needs to vote.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to vote. But we monitor how many black people vote, how many young people, what age group, what geographic area, city versus suburb versus exurb versus rural. Everybody's vote is important. So I wanted to make sure I chatted with you because I know you're highly involved with a lot of people, and I want to thank you for that energy that you bring to bear to communicate, to mobilize, to energize the community around voting.
It's just about empowering our community, and that's why we want to. That's why we've been engaged in this whole concept of mobilizing our people, because someday we're going to be an empowered people. So that's what drives me. It's not anything for me. It's because it's for us, our community, and we've got to engage every eligible voter.
Right.
And we got to really target our young people. That's something that a message that we've got to develop a message that resonates with them, because they're a critical piece of this, and we can't ignore the young African American voters, because they're sometimes disenfranchised from the whole process, and you can't say things like, we have civil rights leaders who suffered, bled, and died for. They're disconnected from that history.
Right.
And
it goes right over their head. Doesn't resonate with them.
It doesn't.
What I like to say to them, not to them, this is to everybody, because I remember having this conversation, try to have it often. The things that President Biden and the Democrats have tried to do have helped poor people. They've helped people in rural areas, in Columbiana County, in Salem. They're poor people. They passed a child tax credit, right? So if you have a child under 18, you got a check in the mail. If you had 2 kids, you got $500-$600 a month for about 6 or 7 months until they couldn't get it passed in a permanent way.
Right.
But it changed child poverty in America and in Ohio. Right. I know Tim Ryan is running, and he's not mentioned in the Democratic Party because he wants to win people who hate Democrats. I think there are people that, for their reason, hate Democrats, right? So he's not saying that. And I think he's making some inroads, whether he wins or not. To be honest, I hope he wins.
Yes, for sure.
But he's not talking about what Biden did. There's 70,000 more Ohioans that have health care because of what the Democrats did, right? Maybe people don't care. I shouldn't say maybe people don't care about health care, because I've been crying and this from the beginning of the pandemic. the pandemic happened, and we passed money, but we didn't fix health care. It's a health,
It's a health issue.
and we don't fix health care.
Yeah.
And then when the last thing they passed on the prescription drugs for diabetes or for I think that's what it was, but it was only for people on Medicare, so it was only for senior citizens. That's a whole lot of people that's under 65 that take insulin that need that break. But that was a Republican piece that said we won't negotiate, right? So the piece that I wanted to make sure that I mentioned is about the Republican politics that always seem to say that the Democrats tax and spend, but they are the ones that run up the deficit. And I have a graph that shows the deficits under every president from Reagan, what they started with and what they ended with. And the Republican presidents ran up the deficit, and the Democratic presidents reduced the deficit. Even in the Inflation Reduction Act that was passed, it reduced the deficit.
Yeah.
Right. Well, the deficit's important because we're printing money, and it impacts what we do. But Democrats, even Clinton had a surplus. But I want you guys to take a look at this graph, and notice over the last 30 years under Republican administrations, the economy went in. The deficit went off the chart. And under Democratic administrations, the deficit was reduced. Now, that's only one part, but it's a big part of what goes into inflation. Inflation is an international, global thing. Putin does something.
Absolutely.
Xi does something. The Saudis do something. It affects the entire globe. Yeah. So, to say what Biden is doing does inflation, I think, just because of his season, his experience, he's been able to strengthen NATO, strengthen the economy, and also help some folks that are poor. Yeah. So I'm excited about that. Good. I just wanted to kind of mention that, but I hope the graphic shows up really kind of clear, because saying what these numbers are may be hard to process, but when you see the numbers in the graphic, it's like, whoa, really?
Well, that's important, because we have to educate our community. We have to educate, and we have to give them factual information, because a lot of people are buying into all the hype, and certainly they're just focusing on or trying to deal with just the economy and inflation and all that stuff, and blame Democrats for that, and and then some people buy into that,
right.
When we don't know the real truth behind what's happening around the world that's affecting our economy.
Right.
I mean, there was a gentleman in office who for the longest denied that there was even a crisis with the pandemic.
Oh, yes.
It was a hoax.
Right.
And which could have
made a big difference.
Yeah.
It could have made a big difference, right?
If we would have caught that and been aggressive in dealing with it before it got to this proportion, but then nobody talks about that.
Well, our politics has changed. The fact that Republicans won't show up in the inner city, or the fact that they won't debate, the ones that the big statewide debates that are happening only because they're forced into the open for one debate or two. And that's better than nothing, but I just want people to remember to vote and to remember to connect with the Community Mobilization Committee, because what you guys are doing, and I'm part of it as well, to engages people, encourages people, mobilizes people to vote. I like what Reverend Warnock said. He said a vote is like a prayer.
Yeah.
It's like, I want good government.
Yeah.
I want less poverty. I want more justice. You know what I mean? It's like a prayer.
Absolutely.
Then to take that away is really kind of offensive. So we're out of time, but I do want to mention it. In the Buckeye Review, there's a ballot, a sample ballot. Good. Pick it up. You can see it online. The League of Women Voters has their piece out. So I'm not going to go down all the candidates this time, but I will mention that issue 1 and issue 2, right? Vote no.
Yes, that's correct. Absolutely. And I wanted to make mention that, we have the rally on tomorrow. That's at the church at 5. And then on Sunday, we have the Souls to the Polls.
Okay.
We're encouraging all of our churches and organizations right after church from 1 to 5. Get our people, get down to the board, like those who haven't voted, and let's rally the troops to get down and cast our vote. We want to make sure we get our votes in early, and then, of course, Election Day is on the 8th. Community mobilization always provides transportation.
Okay.
If anybody needs a ride, you just call 747-330-747-2125, and we organize the transportation for people how to get to their polling location, or even for early voting. If they call the church, we will arrange for them to get picked up to get take to the Board of Elections.
That's a great service. A ride to the polls. I mean, I should have known that. No,
I
already voted.
We've been doing it for years, as well as we're doing phone banking. We're calling people. We're doing robocalls. We're doing public service announcements. We're doing all we can to educate and mobilize everyone to vote. It's just critical, and it's so much. And the Supreme Court, and I mentioned the Supreme Court justice races are critical. We just can't sleep on those as well, because again, thank God we had even with the one Republican justice who was at least brave enough to go against her party, but
you mean on the redistricting?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right. And that's another thing about the current politics.
Yeah.
When you get a Republican that starts telling the truth, everybody turns against him.
Oh,
like they did with Liz Cheney. What a shame about Liz Cheney.
Yeah.
She's like, Republican royalty, and they said, oh, well, you tell the truth about the election. You went against Trump and that whole thing, so you're persona non grata. So that's where we are now, but we're not discouraged. We're not discouraged, right? We're still going to vote. We still love what we do. We love our people, and we think this is important.
We will not black down.
We will not black down. I like that. And that's what it says.
There.
We will not black down. Okay. So thank you again, Reverend Simon, for spending some time with me. Hopefully we'll get this posted fairly quickly. I get it out there, but we're going to continue to have these conversations.
Yes, sir.
To get people engaged in the voting process. Thank you again to our production staff at Method 8. We certainly appreciate their support, and we're looking for others. I'm going to invite you very soon to our book club discussion. In a couple of weeks, we have a book club going on, and we've been having a good time with that. So we'll get you some more information about that as we press forward. But as always, we're in love with you because our community is one. We need each other. Peace.